From the book Lore of Light from Sayyiditina Hajja Amina Khadasallahu Siraha. Suleyman alayhi salam, his dad. Every day a new tree or plant would grow in King Suleyman alayhi salam's garden. It was his habit to ask all those plants their names and purpose. In this way, he learned of their use and their benefits for mankind, and he passed this knowledge on to his people. One day, he saw a new tree sprout, and he asked it, "Who are you? What uses were you created for?" The seedling answered, "I am the carob tree, and I shall be used for the destruction of the temple. Make a staff out of me and lean on me." Suleyman alayhi salam then knew that his end was nigh, and he cried and prayed to the Lord, "O Lord, at least make me not to witness this event, when my life's work will be destroyed and burned to the ground, and let not the jinn know of my death, lest they cease working before the temple is completed." The Lord heard and granted his wish and released Suleyman's soul before the destruction of the temple. After Suleyman alayhi salam had spent his years teaching his people and ensuring their adherence to the law, he left this task to the rabbis and scholars whom he had trained. He retired for long periods to pray and to worship. He left his palace and moved into a little room adjacent to the temple site. From there he would oversee the construction works. And King Suleyman alayhi salam, leaning upon his staff, became a familiar sight to all who worked there. Sometimes he would not come out his room for weeks at a time. So absorbed in his devotions was he. Once he was gone for such a long time that Iblis wandered and peered through the window, but he dared not to go in, for the king wished not to be disturbed. One day a jinn had set his mind on teasing the king and had flown round and round his head, and as a result, in less than an instant, he had completely burned to ashes. So now even Iblis dared not enter unbidden. Iblis only saw the figure of Suleyman alayhi salam upright and majestic, leaning upon his staff, and he saw that the plates of food were empty. One day, the chiefs of the jinn came to Iblis, their king, and complained of Suleyman alayhi salam. "He is making us work too hard," they said. "All day we may not rest." "Does he make you work the nights as well?" asked Iblis. "No," they answered. "At night we are allowed to rest." "Be grateful then that you need not work all night," Iblis replied. The winds brought these words to Suleyman alayhi salam, and Suleyman alayhi salam commanded them to work at night as well from now on. They came again to Iblis and complained even more bitterly. "Now he makes us work day and night." Iblis asked, "Are you made to bear loads, one way or both?" "No, we only are laden one way." Again the wind brought these words to the king, and this time he ordered them to be laden with burdens both coming and going. Again they complained to their lord Iblis. Shaitan told them then, "Be patient a little while longer. The time is approaching, for he cannot endure overseeing this kind of forced labor much longer." Before Suleyman alayhi salam went into his final seclusion, he called his eldest son to him and gave him a long and earnest sermon. "O my son," he advised him, "fear the Lord and stray not for the path of righteousness. Show mercy to your subjects and lead people along the straight path." He spoke as a king speaks when he is handing over his regime to his successor. Then he dismissed him with these words, "And do not come into this mosque again without having been summoned." Suleyman alayhi salam then retired, and the prince went off believing his father had transferred power to him. A whole year passed and no one had seen or spoken to King Suleyman alayhi salam. He stayed in his room, leaning on his staff, and the plates of food were always empty. However, he had meanwhile died, but remained standing upright so that the jinn would not know of his death and continue their labor to complete the temple. Days, weeks, months went by. All this time, a little woodworm had found its way into Suleyman's staff and was gnawing away at it, eating it up from inside, little by little. After a whole year had passed, the staff finally collapsed into powder, and the body of Suleyman alayhi salam fell to the ground. When the jinn learned of Suleyman alayhi salam's death, they said, "We knew of his death all along, but that was a lie. For had they known, they would never have continued their forced labor. They would have dropped everything and run off, but they would not admit to that. This is proof, however, that the jinn do not know the unseen. It is hidden from them, and it is hidden from men, except for what the Lord reveals. Had the jinn had knowledge of the unseen, they would have known that their taskmaster had died and would have laid down their tools." Thus the temple was completed on the very day Suleyman's alayhi salam death was discovered. Praise be to the Lord Almighty Allah. The jinn liked the boost of their achievements and claimed they had built a number of castles and fortresses in the land of Saba in southern Arabia. Inscriptions have been found in many of these castles, reading, "We worked for 7 years and we have built Salhun, Salwa, Marwa, Bayan and Kalsun castles. And we dug 7 moats around these castles for the collection of rainwater. But the Lord only knows who actually inscribed these lines in rock." King Suleyman alayhi salam, in all his majesty and perfection of worldly power, still found no protection from the ultimate faith of all mortals. He lived on earth no longer than 60 years. Allah Almighty has not made known to us his gravesite. According to some traditions, their fairies set the body on the king upon his throne and carried both to an island in the 7th sea. Upon this island there is a mountain in which there is a cave, and they placed him therein. There he remains seated to this very day. Other accounts say he was buried in the city of Dawood, Jerusalem, but Allah knows best. We must remember Suleyman alayhi salam as a mighty king, a king who was given power not only over this world, but also over some of the invisible higher worlds. His power was not the ordinary power of an earthly sovereign. He was a prophet as well as a king, and his knowledge extended far into the unseen. He ranged over jinn, man, and beasts, and his name is praised and unforgotten even to our very day. May Allah have endless mercy upon his blessed soul. Amin.